Well, good evening, everybody. Let's go ahead and begin our virtual family engagement session tonight. Thank you for being with us. As you came in from the waiting room, you probably noticed that your mic was turned off. That's just so we can hear our presentations tonight, but I still want to hear from you. Make sure you're using the chat feature. Share with us your thoughts, your comments, your feedback on our presentation tonight. Put in those questions you might have. We're going to be manning the chat, watching to see the questions you asked. And if we can't answer them tonight, we'll be working to answer them maybe in a future virtual family engagement session. And then with your video, I love seeing everybody's face. Thank you for being on, but I also know sometimes that video can slow down your computer at home. So feel free to leave your video off, but if you're able to, turn it on every once in a while. I love to see everybody's face as part of these sessions. Well, again, good evening, everybody. My name is Scott Varner. I'm the Executive Director of Family Engagement here in Columbus City Schools. And this year in Columbus City Schools, as you know, we are all in. All of our teachers, our staff, our principals, our administrators, district leadership here to make sure that we're doing all that we can to provide the best opportunities for our young people at achieving success. And that includes and has to include working with all of you, with our families, to make sure that you're engaged, that you're informed, that you're a part of these efforts. And so we appreciate you being here as part of one of our virtual family engagement sessions. Now, before we get started, a couple of things I'm going to ask of you, as I do throughout all of our sessions. A little help that we need. The first one is to help us exercise a bit of grace. What do we mean by that? Well, during tonight's session, we're going to give everyone an opportunity to share their opinion. That's why that chat is so important. Make sure you're putting your thoughts in there. Next, we're going to try to remain positive. Boy, we know that the start of the school year is always a stressful time. And boy, there's been a lot of things to even more so be stressful about this school year. But we appreciate that each of you work to help us remain positive and constructive in our conversations. We'll acknowledge if we don't have an answer. I said you might have a question that you put in there about maybe a different topic, something we're not talking about tonight. We'll acknowledge if we don't have an answer tonight, but we're going to try to work to get you one. We'll also be considerate and respectful of your time. Sorry, we got started about a minute late, but we'll definitely be done by 7 o'clock. And finally, the most important part, friends, as we said, we are all in. We're all in this together because it's every one of us working together to make sure our young people have the best opportunities at success. Another thing I'm going to ask of you, take a moment to make sure you log on to the Columbus City Schools website. We have updated the website to try to make it easier for you to find the information you're looking for. Hopefully you can update or find all of the updates you need, including a link to all of our virtual family engagement sessions. So perhaps there's a topic that you missed that you want to go back and watch, or you're going to see this one tonight and want to share it with others. So you'll encourage them to go to the website. Another thing on the website right now is our guide to student success. We hope you've had an opportunity to look through that guide. Remember, there are parts of that parents, you need to sign, and you can do that all virtually this year through the parent portal. So make sure you get on the website and look at the guide to student success. Let's move into what brought us all here together tonight, and it's talking about the great work of our partners at Nationwide Children's Hospital and the On Our Sleeves campaign. It makes us think, if our children could wear their emotions, their feelings on their sleeves, what exactly would we see? And we know that for many of our young people, it might be tough for them to articulate, to share what their feelings are. And we so appreciate that Nationwide Children's Hospital really dove into this topic to help give families tools, tips, the strategies they need to be more confident in discussing mental health, maybe to build up that mental health well-being in their families. And we're so appreciative to have this partnership. Before I introduce our guests tonight, I'm actually going to stop sharing my screen so that I can share with each of you a video of an event that we had last week to really put a spotlight on the On Our Sleeves campaign. And we did it with a very special guest, the head coach of the Ohio State Buckeye football team, Coach Ryan Day. Let me share this video because I think it will kind of help us begin our conversation, really show the importance of the work that we're doing here tonight. So let's start with this video.
Clinton Elementary School students welcomed a surprise visit from several Buckeye diehards. Ohio State head football coach Ryan Day and his wife Christina, along with Nationwide Children's Hospital On Our Sleeves and Big Lots, shared an important message about mental health.
This is a program called On Our Sleeves. And there's a saying out there that you don't show all of your emotions on your sleeve. But what we're here to say is that's something that's healthy, is that when you have certain feelings, you need to have someone that you can go to.
As part of the National Back to School Surprise, organized by On Our Sleeves in partnership with Big Lots, a national supporter of the child mental health movement, Clinton Elementary School is one of 1 million schools across the country to receive a $1,000 Big Lots gift card to provide learning materials in their classrooms.
We want to thank all of you very much, and we really appreciate everything you're doing.
On Our Sleeves is a movement created by Nationwide Children's Hospital in 2018 in efforts to break stigmas around children's mental health.
We really have to normalize this conversation, and that starts when children are young and helping them understand that everybody has feelings, everybody has mental health things they need to address and take care of.
I think it's twofold. One, I think the initial motivation was just that, our family's been impacted by mental health, and then two, just seeing what's going on throughout our community, and even at Ohio State and just across the country, coming off of COVID and mental health and some of the manifestations of mental health, and people have struggled with that. And I think there's a balance there to be found.
Some kids, they might have something heavy weighing on them, and they really need to just talk about it. It will take a lot of weight off their shoulders, and I think it's really awesome that people are doing this.
We think it's awesome too, and we appreciate Coach Day and our partners at Big Lots for being a part of this effort. I'm going to stop sharing my screen again. I think in there we actually said that Big Lots was giving $1,000 to 1 million schools. Okay, it wasn't 1 million schools. I think it was 11. But the commitment is there from our partners at Nationwide Children's Hospital to reach out to 1 million classrooms across the country to provide those tips, those tools, those strategies for free to classrooms and families all over the country, but focused real much so here on Columbus and to our families here in Columbus City Schools. With that, I want to introduce Marty Bledsoe Post, who is the Executive Director of On Our Sleeves. Marty, you and your team, thank you so much for the work that you do and the focus you've put on Columbus City Schools and our families. We're excited, and we were excited to have Coach Day be there as part of our celebration. But really, tell us about the work that your team is doing.
Absolutely. Thank you, Scott. And thank you, everyone, for being here this evening to talk about this important topic with us. Like Scott said, I'm the Executive Director of On Our Sleeves, and I also want to introduce Gina McDowell, who's here with us tonight. She is a behavioral health clinical education supervisor at Nationwide Children's Hospital. So she's going to be leading us through a lot of our tips and strategies tonight. The work that we do is so important because we're trying to break the stigma around mental health as a topic for children. We want to make sure that it's something people feel free to ask questions about, get resources for, share ideas about mental health in kids. And the school year is starting again for all of us after a school year last year that was really like no other ever before, has given all of us a chance to reflect on the routines that kids get into and what we all need to do as school gets started for our families. And I have to say, being part of that event last week was really, really a lot of fun at Clinton Elementary. I enjoyed hearing from our 5th grade group that came and hearing a bit about what they experienced. But I have to say, they were so excited to see Coach Day. They were a little bit more in their Go Bucks mechanism than in a mental health conversation, but they were really cute and we had a great time with them. I want to just quickly again say that the surprise with Ryan and Nina Day at Clinton Elementary was part of what we were doing across the country this school year. We are attempting to be in one of 4 elementary classrooms across the country. So if we can get into 1 million total, that means we're in 25% of the classrooms across the whole country at the elementary level, and providing teachers with information packets and resources and ideas that they can use directly in the classrooms to help their kids, help their students get their feelings and moods out. We did go to 11 schools with those extra surprises with gift cards to Big Lots, and really those are up to the school's discretion to use for whatever kinds of tools or resources they might want to pick up to help their kids with mental health. I know the principal at Clinton said theirs was already spent by the time they got it in their hands. They already had ideas of what they wanted to do with that money. So we're very grateful to Big Lots for that support and helping make the Million Classroom Project possible this year. And I'm going to turn it over from here directly to Gina. She's going to walk us all through some ideas that we can use to help our kids with mental health as we swing into really the second month of the school year here. So Gina, it's up to you.
Thank you so much, Marty. So good evening, everyone. As Marty said, my name is Gina McDowell. I have been lucky enough to have been a part of the Honor Sleeves group and in their work that they've been doing with the campaign for several years now, and very grateful to be speaking with this group this evening. So I'm going to talk through some tips on supporting your family's mental health and well-being. So let's start off with some statistics, though. I like to start off with some statistics to really hit on the why behind the Honor Sleeves movement. So you can see some of these here are listed are pretty alarming. 1 in 5 children experience some form of mental health concern. Approximately 50% of mental health disorders begin before the age of 14. Mental health disorders are the leading cause of disability in adolescence. Suicide has become the second leading cause of death amongst individuals 15 to 25. And the rate of youth suicide has increased by 58% in the past decade. As I said, these statistics are very alarming, and they absolutely identify the need for change and prevention. And the earlier that we can start in our children's lives, the better. Next slide, please. When we're talking about this topic, it's really important to acknowledge the common stressors that our kids are facing today. I think we have all experienced and can agree that we've had a significant change in our routine and structure since COVID-19. Our kids have also had a great deal of back and forth over the last year, as Marty was talking about from the last school year, and the last year and a half, really, as conditions have continued to change with COVID. And we know that structure and routine has a huge impact when it comes to mental well-being. The return to school is generally a tough one for kids anyways, coming out of summer, getting back into the swing of things. But this year it's especially hard as kids have entered back into school full time with a lot of new restrictions in place. Students are quarantining more often now because of exposures, and many things have changed from the structures that they once knew in school. Peer relationships are so important for our kids, but sometimes they can often be a stressor for children as well. Increased virtual interactions and less in-person interaction that we've also seen over the last 18 months can sometimes cause additional challenges as well. Media coverage is a big one. I think it's something that even overwhelms us adults at times, and it can absolutely impact a child. It's impossible to turn on the TV or log into social media without hearing about COVID or other stressors throughout the world. So really thinking about what our kids are experiencing too, when depending on their age range, they might not even understand all of the details of everything that's going on. So definitely a stressor for our children. And then finally, discomfort talking about mental health. Some kids are more comfortable talking about their emotions than others, but some may not know how or if it's even appropriate to talk about feelings and mental health. And we're going to talk here in a moment about ways to help with that. Next slide, please. Thanks. So what does on our sleeves mean? And Coach Day touched on this in his video, but I'm sure many of you have heard the phrase, you wear your heart on your sleeve. Well, our kids don't wear their thoughts on their sleeves. So unless we're asking, we aren't able to see or know what they're feeling. On Our Sleeves gives children a voice, providing free educational resources for families and truly trying to break the stigma around mental health. So on the next slide, we're going to talk about how to get started. We often get the question, how do I even begin? Some of these conversations can feel awkward and uncomfortable at first, but we do have some tips on how to get started having these talks with your child. But first and foremost, just start talking. Just start having open conversations around feelings and mental health with your child. The more we talk about it, the more it normalizes the action and the behavior within the family. Work those conversations into your daily routine. You can actually see our conversation starters for questions and prompts to get you going. They are on the On Our Sleeves website. Find ways to incorporate this practice into things that you're already doing. So for example, maybe having a discussion at the family dinner where everybody goes around and answers a specific question, or setting aside some time after school for everybody to get together. Find what works best for you and your family, and what is most efficient for your schedule. Create a safe space and provide validation. So letting kids know that it's okay to feel what they feel, even if it might be a negative emotion. As adults, there are even times when we judge ourselves for feeling angry or sad. And we want to give kids space to experience whatever it is that they're feeling and let them know that that's okay. Get the whole family involved as much as possible. Again, having everyone participate, even the adults, lets kids see that this is a normal part of the routine. And it's great modeling too, if the adults in the family can do this as well. So if they see their caregivers doing it, they're likely to follow. And finally, make it fun. With whatever you do, make it fun. Get creative with ideas. I knew a family who really enjoyed feeling charades, where one person or one kid would act out an emotion, and then everyone would take turns talking about a time when they felt that way. So it was really fun for that family, but you can actually really get the kids involved too on coming up with ideas. They're extremely creative, and it's just a nice way for them to kind of contribute to that behavior and that practice within the family. Next slide. Thank you. Form healthy habits. I'm sure most of us can think of a habit that we've wanted to adopt for our health, whether it's consistent exercise, eating breakfast every day, or maybe even going to sleep at a certain time. And I'm sure most of us can also think of times when our habits and routines were interrupted and the effect that that had on our mood and stress levels, especially over the last year and a half. But our healthy habits absolutely play a positive role when it comes to our children's mental health. So we have the 3 R's on how we can help form them. The first R is reminder. Make it impossible to forget the goals for the day. Write them on a calendar, create fun checklists for kids to complete, whatever you think will be helpful in your house. In my house, we often used a whiteboard on the fridge for reminders. So it was kind of right in front of our face anytime we went into the fridge or into the kitchen. And that seemed to work well for us. But also know that as a caregiver for your kids, you might have to give additional prompts at the beginning as children are kind of getting into the swing of this. But eventually it becomes the second R, the routine. And once something becomes a routine, kids are much more likely to stick with it. So when it comes to kids, though, we do need to identify that we need to remember that we might need to break routines down a bit step by step, because when we think about things like the morning routine, getting ready for school, thinking about everything that might be involved in that routine is a lot for a child to remember. So we just want to be able to maybe even provide visuals, break things down step by step. And again, there are some resources on the website on how to do that. But the more you practice them and repeat them, the sooner that it'll become a routine and eventually a habit. It's also important to be realistic with our expectations on this. So thinking about the age of your child and, what is realistic for them to be completing on their own, what might require some additional prompting. And then finally, the last R, the best one, reward. We can't forget to celebrate success. So come up with some rewards for following through on those desired behaviors or routines that we want to see. Rewards should be small but meaningful. But for kids, this might mean things like stickers, small pieces of candy. For some of our older kids, more screen time, time with friends. Anything like that, but get creative with it. And again, let the kids get involved on coming up with some ideas too for rewards within reason. Sometimes they need reined in a little. Building resilience. Resiliency is the ability to cope and get through challenging situations. This is a skill that we all need in life, and starting to build resiliency at a young age can only help our kids in the long run. Here are some of the ways that we can help children become more resilient. Start by helping your child create a strong support system. This might include family in the home or trusted adults in the community outside of the home. Having a strong sense of supports in their lives can help children feel secure when they are navigating those challenging moments throughout life. Next, create a structure and routine in the home. Again, having structure and less unknowns in a child's home creates a sense of safety and security, which can play a huge role in resiliency. And as the adult, model and regularly practice good coping skills with your child. We need to do it too. So if children see the adults in their lives coping well, they will see that it is possible to get through stressful situations. And one of the harder things is to let them use their coping skills when challenges arise. It's very understandable when adults want to swoop in and save children from pain or discomfort. However, if we can let them use their coping skills and practice and problem solve some of their challenging situations, that's what helps them build resiliency and learn that they have what it takes to get through something hard. And finally, praise your child for their resilience. Point out when they're successfully navigating or managing a tough situation. Let them know that you see how hard they're working. Remember, we want to always reinforce those behaviors that we want to see more of. So anytime we have the opportunity, providing that praise and that positive feedback. And then finally, the Honor Sleeves website has so many free educational resources for families. So make sure to check that out. There are a lot of fun checklists, challenges, and activities that you can print off and you can do with the entire family. There are some neat ways that you can kind of use the Honor Sleeves icons to start some of those conversations and have fun activities with the family. Lots of videos that that parents and caregivers can watch. So definitely check that out to see what is available. There are many, many things on there that several of our families have found to be useful. That's the content that I had. I figured there would probably be some questions, but I would love to open it up at this time. And Marty, I don't know if you're wanting to moderate that, but that is all I had for the content portion.
Yeah, thank you, Gina. I have one that has come up more than once in this and in other sessions, which is how do you help a child who's having a feeling when they're afraid their feeling might hurt someone else's feelings? So they're afraid if they're mad and they're truly mad and they're all in their mad, what do they do if they feel like, well, so-and-so will be sad if they know that I'm mad? How do you help them like deal with that overlap?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I would also want to praise them for thinking about somebody else's feelings too. That is a great social skill to have. So we want to praise them for thinking about somebody's feelings, but we can also validate the experience and let them know that it's okay to be mad. So if it's something that, my friend Johnny did that upset me, it might be okay as a parent. It would be okay as a parent to say, like, I can understand where that would make you upset. That would make me mad too. And helping them, and depending on their developmental level, and of course, but also maybe helping them have that conversation and navigate that conversation that they might have with a friend, especially our older teens. That's a great way to model good communication and good boundary setting, actually. So being able to say, okay, so how are we going to communicate to Johnny that upsets you? And it doesn't have to be a heated discussion. We don't have to hurt Johnny's feelings. So being able to use it as an opportunity to practice that good communication. Even if they don't talk to Johnny for upsetting them, I think even having that opportunity to practice with you is great to just model and teach good communication skills.
Thank you.
One of the things I love about what you share, and you use a term, it's called emotional empowerment. That idea that, as we talk about it, as we help our young people better understand their emotions and the impacts, that we really empower them to kind of take control of their emotions. And that's real important when you get to some of those tough ones. Talk about that idea of empowerment on our emotions.
Absolutely. And especially depending on how controlled you feel with your emotions, there are many times that I'm sure that all of us can think of a time where we maybe have felt out of control with our emotions, that we didn't even know what we were experiencing in the moment. So the emotional empowerment campaign that rolled out last year, we really talked a lot about helping children identify how it is that they are feeling. So sometimes it comes down to even just like giving feelings words for what they can use to describe their feelings. It's also really helpful, I think, too, to help them kind of tie that to a body sensation too, to really identify like what it is that they are experiencing. And then we're also thinking about, and you kind of touched on this, Marty, too, about other people's feelings. How might other people feel? So giving kids opportunities and activities that they can start to identify how other people are feeling, and then in turn, right, thinking about how their actions could potentially be impacting other people's emotions. But then again, using those coping skills to be able to quote unquote control the emotions and give them the ability to feel empowered that, you know what, just because I'm angry doesn't mean that I have to act on it. Just because I am upset doesn't mean that I have to act on it. It gives me the ability to kind of regulate. And having good emotional regulation skills is good when you're a child and to when you are well into adulthood. And it really does truly give kids and teens that feeling of empowerment that they can control these things that they are experiencing and can control the reaction to those emotions as they come.
Friends, remember, if you have questions, make sure you put them in the chat. I've got one more question I know has come up before, and I'll ask it of both of you. You shared a real sobering reminder that probably 1 in 5 children, as we look across the country, has a significantly impairing mental or emotional disorder. As we look to our young people, try to help them with that emotional empowerment, at what point, or what are some of the things that a parent should look for when maybe it is time to ask someone at the school or to talk to one of the experts at Nationwide Children's to make that kind of next step when you maybe start to worry that there's something else that you're seeing that you want maybe another thought or opinion on?
Absolutely. That's a great question. Because again, we're normalizing having these talks about mental health and feelings, and we're really establishing a baseline too of where our children are at. But when we start to notice a drift from that baseline, or we're starting to see some things that are concerning. So when we think of depression, things like isolating themselves, kind of withdrawing from family and friends, losing interests in things that used to really get them excited, stuff like that. Anxiety, we tend to see, a lot of avoidance of certain things. So avoiding school, avoiding social situations, not wanting to be separated from their caregivers. So some of these things, when we start to see it impacting function, and again, caregivers know their children well, and when they start to see things that are kind of drifting from that traditional baseline, it might be time to talk to someone when we start to see those warning signs. And again, that isolation, the withdrawal, kind of the depressed mood, maybe more significant crying than normal, anger outbursts are another thing that we can see. We're starting to see some of these behaviors that again are really starting to impact function. It's definitely better to be safe than sorry and reach out to a mental health provider to kind of talk through some of those things. So great point.
Yeah, and Scott, I would actually build on that. The 4 years prior to my joining On Our Sleeves, I was a consultant for working parents, and I had the opportunity over those 4 years to hear a lot of stories from parents who were trying to make some decisions about how their family was getting from day to day and how they were managing work and school and kids and all the things. And one of the themes consistently in our focus groups and our classes that came up over and over was when you realize that your family can't do things other families can do because your child has, XYZ reaction or XYZ needs to be met before you can get out the door or whatever that looks like. It's that realization that perhaps you're not able to, as Gina said, function the way you see others functioning. And that's when for a lot of our parents in our workshops, it became the impetus they needed to start to think about a next step, whether that was talking to a teacher, pediatrician, mental health professional, those kinds of conversations, because those parents shared that was really their first clue, was that reflective look back at their situation.
Another thing that I just, again, really appreciate about the website, the information that you share, are those conversation starters. Boy, we know that families, we have so much going on, and sometimes it's just where you think about those opportunities to have a conversation. As I'm looking at our families that are with us tonight, Miss Hooks, I'm seeing you on the front porch with, you are involved in your young person's life at the same time as listening to this. And boy, that is awesome. We so appreciate you being here. It's finding those opportunities and what you do every day to have those conversations with your young person, that while you're with them in the car, with them on the front porch, as they're doing something, you find those ways. What would be some of the good conversation starters that you can think of that you'd want our families to know about?
I think my favorite is having everybody talk about what was the best thing that happened to you today, and what was something that might have been hard for you today. I also like, what is something that you overcame today? How are you brave today? I think you can tailor it. And again, there are tons of conversation starters, but I really like having everybody in the family identify a positive of the day, and not necessarily a negative, but something that was challenging that you got through. So it gives the opportunity to kind of again set the normal tone that what great things happen throughout the day, and sometimes challenging things happen throughout the day, and that's also a nice way of listening to the answers and listening to the responses, and to your point, thinking about what are some of the the warning signs that I might be catching on some of those responses. If there's never anything good that's happening throughout the day, and there we're noticing a lot of a struggle to kind of find any of those positive moments, like you might want to explore that a little bit more. But those are some examples. I mean, there are other really fun ones too for the little kids, like if you could be a superhero, what would it be? What would your superpower be? So there are some fun conversation starters too that don't necessarily feel, especially if you're just getting started and it feels uncomfortable to maybe ask specifics about emotions, that some of those are very non-threatening. Kids enjoy answering those types of questions. But to your point also about routine and kind of finding time to do this, I think oftentimes families feel like they need to kind of have a set time throughout the day that they're going to be able to dedicate. And while if you can do that, that is fantastic. Absolutely, please do. But I think we all know too what happens with life sometimes Monday through Friday. And sometimes that can be hard. So I really like to recommend that people even work them into things that you're already doing. So if you're doing school pickup and you've got everybody in the car, let's have a fun conversation in the car. If you are having dinner together, this is a great time to go around while everybody's eating and answer the questions. But if you're having some time sitting around after school, so working it into something that you're already doing throughout the day, if you can, with your children, so that way it's less of a lift on the family, but can give you such valuable information from the answers that you receive from your child.
That's my new favorite question. How were you brave today? Acknowledging that it's okay to be afraid of something, challenges that we have to overcome, but then also that encouragement about being brave. And I think we heard that from Coach Day even at the event. He talked about, you look at those football players on the field, some very tough and what they go through, but the coaches also talk about making sure that they are mentally healthy as well as physically healthy. And so we really appreciate hearing that emotions are something we all have and we all need that empowerment. Any final thoughts you want to share with our families? Gosh, I'm so excited that you were able to share this, and we had a number of families who are listening. Any final thoughts?
I think just reiterating, just have those conversations and really breaking the stigma around mental health, normalizing talking about feelings and emotions. There are supports out there if you identify any cause for concern, but we're really wanting to do this to help our children at a very young age build these skills that will stick with them through the rest of their life and help them all throughout adulthood. So that would be my final thoughts.
And Marty, anything that you want to share? I know, again, we are just so appreciative of the Nationwide Children's Hospital team, but then also those other partners that really step up, the Big Lots, Coach Day and his family, others that really step up to make sure that we're all talking about this. And as you said, kind of starting those conversations that we can all have.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're grateful for your partnership, Scott. I know you've made huge strides at CCS with family engagement, and that is a wonderful thing to see. And it's always a joy for us to share our partners like Big Lots and other corporations with the world when they're on board with this mission. So it's exciting to be part of it. And thank you for all that you're doing. And thank you for having us tonight.
Yes,
We thank you for all the work that you're doing. We appreciate it. And friends, we will make sure to share with everybody that link to that website. Or if you just get on Google and put On Our Sleeves, it will take you to that incredible website with all of these free resources. And that's what the most important part was. It wasn't that you have to go through a lot of hurdles to get to it. They're incredibly useful, easy to understand, easy to use resources that are right there at your fingertips. So again, we thank our partners at Nationwide Children's Hospital and all who are behind the On Our Sleeves campaign. Well, friends, as I said at the beginning, I'm always going to ask for your help on certain things. So one of the things I'm going to ask for your help on is us engage other families. You heard some great information here tonight. Take what you heard and maybe share it with another parent that you know. I know we all know different parents, and we also know different families that may be facing a struggle at home. And I love one of the things that we talk about with this campaign is that no family should struggle alone, that we are all in this together. And so I'm going to ask for your help to make sure that you are helping us engage all families so that we are all in and giving our children those best opportunities at support. Okay, one last reminder, don't forget to go to the Columbus City Schools website. We've updated it to make it easier to find information. And tomorrow will be a link to the video of this session. So again, as you're talking to another parent, another family, say, gosh, I was a part of this virtual family engagement session last night. You should watch it. You can send them to the Columbus City Schools website and they'll be able to get a copy and watch this. You'll also be able to RSVP for some of our future sessions. I so appreciate all of you that were here tonight, especially taking time, I know on a nice September evening. And I appreciate that you took time to be a part of this session because again, in Columbus City Schools this year, we are all in to make sure that our students have those best opportunities at success. And that begins with making sure that our families are all in, that you are engaged and feel supported. So thank you everybody for being a part of our virtual family engagement session tonight. Thank you to our great partners at Nationwide Children's Hospital. And everybody have a great evening. Thank you.